Hi there! Let's put some action on our app. We're going to build our app's backend. Let's go to App Inventor. In our last video, we were here. We have built the front end with no interactions. Now we're going to put some action. We have decided that when the user moves the slider, two things will happen. The first label will be changed to show the grade selected on the slider. And the second thing was the calculation of the grade I have to get on the final test to pass the course. So, when I move the slider, two actions will be launched, one regarding the label 1 and the other one regarding label 3. To make things easier when programming, try to name your elements properly. For example, I select label 1, click Rename and change the name to label Parcial. Then I easily know that it's a label that it's showing me something about the midterm test. I'll do the same thing to label 3 and call it label Final. On our next projects, we will have many more elements on the screens. Naming them properly will make your programming life easier. Now, to give actions to these elements, let's go to the programming area or block areas. Notice that your small screen is gone, but you can see the list of elements of your screen on the left side of the browser. So let's think about the action. If I want to make a calculation when the slider is changed, the action must be over the slider. When I click on the slider, a list of options is shown. The very first one shows when the slider position changed. This is exactly what I need. So I click and drop anywhere on the white area. So when it gets changed, I want something to happen. The first thing is to change label Parcial. So I'm going to click label Parcial and look for Set Label Parcial Text. This is used to change the text of a label to anything that I want. I will drag and drop inside the slider block. I want this label to have the text if I get plus the slider value plus on the midterm test. So there are three parts of the text. I'm going to get the join function. It allows me to join two or more pieces, segments of text. You have a very similar function on Excel called concatenate. So what will I do with join? Get the fixed text where I can write anything and snap to the first part of the join. I'm going to set label Parcial text to if I get. The second part is the value, the position of the slider. You can use this orange part here called thumb position. When you pass your mouse over it, you grab it and snap to the join. Let's sum up. When slider changes, I'm going to set label partial text to two pieces of text. If I get, and the value of the slider. So I need one more piece. I can click on the small blue gear and insert another piece of string. Again, I get another fixed text and complete on the midterm test. Let's take a look at how it's going. Click Connect. If emulator is disabled, probably your emulator is already working. Look for the small Android icon on your taskbar and then you can find it. Now, when I click and move the slider, the label text changes. Now we have to do the calculation. But first, let's take a look at the math. We know that to calculate the final average, I have a 40% weight on the midterm grade and 60% on the final grade. If I need 6 as the final average, making all the calculations and substituting the variables for our elements, we have this formula. Final grade equals 6 minus 0.4 times the slider and everything divided by 0.6. So let's put this on App Inventor. You have already seen text functions. There are also some very interesting math functions. Let's begin with the multiplication. I will grab first the multiplication, then I will get a basic number block. The first thing is to calculate 0.4. Be careful because the decimal separator in App Inventor is a dot, not a comma. Times the slider position. Again, mouse over the orange position. Now I will make a subtraction. I begin with 6, then subtract the multiplication. Grab the subtraction function. The first part is a basic number. I can get on the list or duplicate using the right button. Then I grab the multiplication block and snap to the subtraction one. All this I want to divide by 0.6, so again I get a division function. Drag the whole block and drop inside the division. I duplicate this number and change to 0.6. Now I want all this calculation to be shown at Label Final. So I click Label Final, drag and drop Set Label Final text, and it snaps the calculation. Let's take a look at the results. It's working. When I change the slider, the calculation is done and the final test value is updated. If I got 5 on the middle term test, I will need 6.67, a repeating decimal. This is not a very beautiful way to show numbers, so let's make it better, reducing the number of decimal places. On App Inventor, I go to Math Functions. On the bottom of the list, I have Format as Decimal. I grab and drop this function. Take the calculation and snap to number. And put 1 at the decimal places. Now the visual of the app is more pleasant. Now we have finished our first app. See you on next video.